want to study in the UK, this is a video for you. Hi, I'm Laura. Thanks for coming on this video. I'm from Kenya and I'm just doing some content around the whole experience of doing a master's, studying abroad, and just the entire process of it. And basically just jumping right into it, one of the things about the UK, why I personally chose the UK. My personal process is that there was not too much thinking into it. Like, I didn't have an array of options per se. After having a discussion with my parents about the fact that I want to do a master's, I was not looking to go abroad at all. I just wasn't, like, I didn't think that was possible. I personally knew I didn't have the money. So it wasn't in my mind. But when I spoke with my parents and they were willing to support the process, then, you know, started to think about it, started to work on it, started to pray on it, and here we are now. But why the UK? I remember this actually coming from my mom. One of the things that stands out about the UK, and especially coming here as an international student, is that it's actually a country that's very open to international students. UK, US, Canada are very open to international students. Like, and by open I mean, like, for most people, as long as you have the right documents and everything looks pretty clean and easy, you meet the requirements, you will likely get your visa. You will likely get a chance to come. And that's because, yes, they do have some of the greatest universities in the world to empower people more, but it's also because they are trying to recruit people for their job markets. They need workforce. So they're opening their arms to many people to come in, study here, because again, there are many people around the world who are looking to move away from their country. So why not? You can come to ours. But also, even if not, like, still you have a Canadian, a UK, or whatever degree that makes you somehow in a way attached to us, in a way that can be of benefit to us as well. So that's a great thing. And so you have, in the UK, you have like the student route visa, which they have, and they also have a what they call it, graduate route visa. Yes, which is now a visa you can take after you graduate from the UK with a master's in the UK to stay in the UK for 2 more years and gain work experience. And what can happen in such an instance is, depending on where you're working, you might end up actually getting a sponsor for your visa, and you end up staying in this country, and you end up setting base, and you end up eventually 10 years later being a citizen. And so they have those, UK has those allocations, which makes it like a very friendly idea for someone who's looking to come and study in the UK. So there's definitely the whole idea of how cosmopolitan this country is. By the way, I was watching, and I would highly recommend this video, is by Charlie Karumi. He started something called Vibes and Visas, and he's basically having guests on the show just talking about the whole experience of moving countries. He also moved countries with his wife. They're in Canada, and they were sharing about I've lost my train of thought. Oh, they're sharing about how in that particular area where they live, for a long time they didn't see any blacks. In the UK, I'm telling you, like, if you just go to, and not everywhere, let me be clear, not everywhere, but like most of the major cities, and especially cities that have like major universities, so Oxford, of course, London is one of the most cosmopolitan places in the world. Oxford, Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham, Brighton, Wales, you know, just places that have big universities, very student friendly and things like that. You will definitely see someone who looks like you, and it won't take you 10 minutes. So that's a good thing, very cosmopolitan. And there definitely, that just brings the whole idea of, yeah, you're not really on edge about, oh my goodness, I'm the only person in this room that's different and that's odd and whatever. Even the Brits are sort of used to the fact that, yeah, all of you guys are here. So you'll find many blacks, many Asians. In terms of the black community, I think the largest community is Nigerians. Nigerians are everywhere. God, I love Nigerians. I've also noticed there's loads of Jamaicans here. And there's definitely a Kenyan community in the UK, definitely. But in my opinion, I could be wrong. In my opinion, the Kenyan community is not like super loud in the UK. The Nigerians, you cannot miss them. You will know they're here, and same with the Jamaicans. But even Asians, there's so many. Hindu community, Indians, there's so many. And then of course is the general European community. You'll find a lot of Italians, a lot of Germans, a lot of French people in the UK generally. So very cosmopolitan. So you get to interact with various cultures all at the same time. That's exciting, that's fun. That makes UK a really interesting place to live. Of course, when we talk academics, basically there's just the fact that the UK offers courses, degrees that are globally acknowledged and accepted. That definitely gives you an edge. Having a degree from some of these countries, from the UK in particular, definitely will give you an edge globally. And also when you think about, and I think I mentioned this earlier, that in like a postgraduate course or an undergraduate course, the UK offers like a shorter time period. They have 3-year undergraduate courses and they offer the 1-year postgraduate course, which not many countries actually offer. I actually don't know of any other, could be, but I do know for sure because I am doing one myself, and most postgrad courses in the UK now have an allocation for 1 year, and then you can do your 2 years if you want. Of course, now 2 years will be more expensive, but 1 year will be more affordable, but definitely more compact, more intense. And generally it's arguable, but I mean generally the UK is also fairly cheaper compared to like the US. It's a little cheaper, but being an international student anyway will definitely be expensive regardless. You remember how in university, if you went to a public university, like I personally went through this thing we called JAB. I think they changed it to like KUCPPS or something but I remember I went through them. So like my fees was something like 15 G's a semester, but people who come in as self-sponsored students, as we call them, SSPs, SS whatever, used to pay like 90 G's. That's like 6 times, you know. So it's almost the same concept. Like international students, we pay in the UK, an international student pays like 2.5 times the amount that a citizen would pay. So it's definitely generally gonna be more expensive, but like in the bigger picture, the UK is generally more cheaper place to come study. There are loads of scholarships, loads of grants, loads of bursaries available. If you look at things like chevening, and we'll talk about that later. I personally was too late to apply for a scholarship, but you have just some small things they do, grants and bursaries and just discounts they can do like for international students, which is really good. So since they have so many of those opportunities, it makes it easier for people to have an opportunity to come and study in the UK. So look out for those if you are looking to study in the UK. And I would say, I think this is important to say now before I forget, that the earlier you start the better. So if you're looking to come to the UK, say in September, we're now in January, the best time to start looking for a scholarship is now. I started looking for a school in May. I was late for any possible scholarship. There was no scholarship available until the next year, September. And I didn't want to stay another year waiting for a scholarship. So I just decided to go the self-sponsored way. But if you want to get a scholarship, it is a process. I don't know much about it, but I will research on it. You want to start as early as possible, and they are there, and they are many. Then this is not the time to be saying this, but they argue that the UK has like lower living costs. It's not really the time to be saying that, because like what? And inflation has badly hit the UK. Whew, I can tell you that, like, as someone living here, it's tough. It's tough for like UK citizens, so you can imagine like it's really tough. So but like on a global scale, it's said to be more affordable to live in the UK compared to like the US. So but then what I can say is indeed a plus is the fact that in the UK they really, it's a very student friendly place, especially like I'm saying this cities that have major universities, like I'm saying Oxford, Birmingham, Manchester, they are known to Leeds, they're known to have big universities, they're known to accommodate many students, and so you find that they have loads of student discounts. So you can actually live really well on student discounts in this country. Good thing is they also have like stores that are like much cheaper compared to others. You get your groceries and whatever at a cheaper price because it's not like a massive store. Only difference is you won't get as much variety, but like you can get by. They try to make it possible for you to get by, so that makes it fairly friendly, student discounts and everything, and they're reasonable discounts also. But then lastly, something that makes the UK awesome is your student visa allows you 20 hours of work time. So as you study, because a master's, at most you're likely to have 4 modules in a semester, which means you're in school 4 days a week. The other 3 days you can use your 20 hours to work and make some money, and make some money is untaxed money, like, so you're able to somehow make your money for, and here there's a minimum wage and things like that, which is definitely an advantage. So whatever job you're doing, you're able to somehow make money that can allow you to live, eat, and just take care of it. At the very least, you have a roof over your head, water, Wi-Fi, electricity, heating, and food, which are the basic necessities. So that's definitely a plus. Now I want to jump into a very important bit, which will be like a bulk of this series that I want to do, which is now the requirements should you be looking to come into the UK to study. Now this I am just going to state for this particular video, and then in the next batch of videos I'm now going to start breaking down one by one each of them as extensively as I possibly can, and hopefully that will help you. So if you're looking to come to the UK, and many of these things I'm going to mention are also just basic, very important documents you need to have as an adult. And I'm laughing about that because one of the things that is just like a true mark of adulting is the day you start keeping your passport and your birth certificate and your all those things. My goodness. So number one, you need your academic transcripts and certificate. So if you're applying for undergrad, you do need your KCSE certificate and transcripts. If you're applying for postgrad, of course, you need your undergrad transcripts and certificates. So these are definitely offered to you once you graduate. If you've never picked them, why haven't you picked them? You need to pick them. And as a bonus, I'd also add and say you also want to get certified copies of the same. Schools normally offer that. I remember KU charged me for them, not a big amount, just and a certified copy basically means you photocopy and then it's stamped to say that it's a certified true copy of the original. I don't remember why that's important, but I think it's important. So if you can do it, why not? On that day when you go pick your transcripts, or if you're listening to this now and you're thinking, I have some time, I don't want to do that, just do that. Just go and go with your transcripts and say you want certified copies. It really helps. I can't remember where, but it does help. You definitely need a valid passport. You're gonna fly at some point, so you need a valid passport. So if you haven't renewed your passport, or you've never applied for a passport, definitely very, very important. Another very important thing that you need is an English proficiency certificate. So what that is you're going to do an English exam. You're going to be tested on reading, writing, speaking. What was the other one? I forget, but I'm going to expound on each of them at length. So yes, you need to do an English proficiency test. Here we're talking IELTS, we're talking TOEFL, so IELTS or TOEFL. Those are the renowned English courses that are offered in Kenya. For them, you also need to make for most of these things, you need bookings and appointments and things like that. So the earlier you begin, always the better. Oh, needless to say, you have to have passed the tests, not just done the tests. You have to have passed these tests. Also, you need letters of recommendation. Now, this is something that I think this process taught me was very important to have as an adult. For anything, anything you're applying to, you need letters of recommendation. So if you've ever done an attachment, a placement, things like that, and you never picked your letters of recommendation, just pick them because you never know when you'll need them. But generally, for this application, you're going to need an academic recommendation and a professional recommendation. Now, academic recommendation is basically something you get from likely your professor or your dean of studies, whoever you are close to through your work experience. And close to doesn't have to mean like you really interacted so much, just someone who you know knows you personally and can write a recommendation for you. You have to have a professor in your class who knows you and can write a recommendation for you. So basically that's what you need, and you also need a professional one. Now, if you have never really like worked extensively for a long time somewhere, because like for me, I also don't really have like actual work experience in nutrition. My work experience is my 1-year placement, which was an internship, but that's work experience, that qualifies as work experience. Now that's where you get your professional recommendation. So as long as you've ever done any practical work in that area, get a professional recommendation from the person who was a supervisor in that workplace. So professional, academic recommendation letters. Now you also need a TB certificate. Anybody who's coming to the UK for more than 6 months, whether it's academic, whether it's whatever, you need to go for a TB test. I'll tell you more about it later, and then get a TB certificate. Another thing you need, which for some reason wasn't my most favorite thing, is a personal statement. Like you need to have somewhere written like a 1,000 to 1,500 word essay of like just a personal statement. It's very important in the process of applying. And I think for most things, yes, it is generally. And then importantly, as I mentioned earlier, because your financial state is very important, nobody wants a burden in their country, you need bank statements. You need bank statements that show a particular amount of money. Why I'm not giving a specific amount is because depending on when you're applying, what the state is at that point, because now I wouldn't be surprised if that amount is slightly higher because of inflation, so depending on when you're applying, depending on how long your course is, because people also come here for like diploma, PhD, master's, so depending on what you're applying, how long it will be, different courses have different school fees amounts, all those things. Your school should advise you how much you need to prove you have through a bank statement. So of course, if they say £15,000, you have to convert that into Kenya shillings, and the safer thing to do is to add another amount on top of that to factor in the exchange rate. So that is purely individual in a sense, but like I'd said in the last video, like my ballpark was 3M. It was 3M and something, which now is supposed to include your school fees. Sorry, just remembered I need to clear my fees for this semester. Needs to include your school fees and your living costs. So your living costs per year. These things are actually seriously stipulated in the UK website, www.gov.uk. Very clearly stipulated. It's important. So yes, so when you combine like you're living here 12 months times living cost of one person is £1,000 for me it was £1,027 away from London. If you're living in London, if you're living in London, life is expensive in London. Like to this day, London is an hour away from Oxford, and just stepping into London, I have to have money. If I don't have money, it's just a very expensive place to be. So the further away, major tip I can give you, the further away you are from London, the cheaper it will be generally. Even your rent and things like that will be way cheaper. I ended up in Oxford, long story, but like I initially didn't really want to be like this sides, but yeah, I'm here, and I mean I'm trying, but it's definitely more expensive because it's very close to London, and it's like a more like elite area in the UK, so it's a lot. So you need bank statements. I'll definitely expound more on that. Now all these are the requirements: academic transcripts and certificate, valid passport, letters of recommendation, TB certificate, English proficiency test, bank statement, personal statement. Now, all these things are the requirements you need to have to apply for a school. When you apply for a school and you get accepted, the school gives you something called a certificate of acceptance of studies, and that's what you will use to apply for your visa. Now, from my observation, getting a CAS is halfway through getting into the country. It's halfway through from there, unless there's a reason for immigration to reject your visa application. If the school has done the check and seen that you have everything you need, then likely you should be okay. So this is a very crucial part of the application process, getting the CAS, getting an acceptance from the school. So a bit about the application process. I highly recommend that if you're doing this process on your own, because there are also agencies, something we'll talk about later, but I think even if you were to use an agency, I'm really hoping that this content can just generally help you to understand what you're doing or what the agency is representing you to do, because people also get scammed by people who are not even real agencies in the first place. It's important, so important, for you to understand the process in detail, regardless of how you are going about it. So if you're applying, let's say, by yourself to various schools, first, that's the thing, I'd suggest apply to various schools. Apply to at least a minimum of like 5 schools. Do your research. Remember last video me telling you about studying the faculty of the schools. Like, you will start there in Google and say Masters in Public Health in the UK. Various schools will come up. Then you start looking at each school. It's a process. Each school. Start looking at the faculty in the school, the modules they're offering. Does it make you happy? Do you like the whole idea? The more you study the faculties, the professors, the things that this university has done in that particular field, things like that, it'll help you narrow down to the school that's best for you, and you will have a top 5. Like for me, Oxford Brookes University, where I am now, was actually my second. My first was University of South Wales. I cannot remember from there, but yeah, I had several others. Then you apply to these places. Another side note I want to make is, especially in the UK, because we're talking about the UK particularly, I would argue that unless you're applying for a very specialized course, I would argue if a school requires you to pay an application fee, might as well ditch it. It's not a must. Application fees are very expensive. They're about an equivalent of 10,000 shillings in Kenya. You can imagine if you paid 10,000 shillings for every school you apply to, that would be, most of them don't require you to pay an application fee. But a place like London School of Medicine, you want to get into London School of Medicine, might as well pay that 10,000. So unless it's a specialized course, I wouldn't, like a highly specialized course, or like maybe you really, really, really want this university, which is okay. It's okay to want that. I wouldn't recommend stressing out about schools that require you to pay an application fee. So you narrow down your schools, you put together all these documents, and then you make your applications, and then from there you wait it out. I would say keep your standards high. All those top 3 schools, look out for those top 3 schools. And remember, like I've said, if you're thinking of coming to the UK as an international student independently, you're thinking about being independent here, you're thinking about working to take care of yourself. So you're not thinking from a place of, I have everything I need, I'll just go there to fully study. You might as well just consider schools away from London, just for you to be able to get by better and easier in a less expensive place. As a very important point, use one email address. You likely have an email address already. Use one email address, and as much as possible one password to do your applications, because most applications require you to create an account with the school and all that. So use one to make it easier for you to keep up with your applications and everything. Applications take about 2 weeks to maximum a month. If a school takes more than a month, I would argue it's a bit of a red flag, might as well not. So I think that, and this is one of the things I'm most proud of about the school that I'm in, their communication is so swift and it's so informative, and it's so like they literally have a body to take care of international students and their specific needs. From the moment I had an account and I had a valid application with them, I could actually get on a Zoom call. They usually have set Zoom calls to speak to someone directly about my application and about where I'm at or where I'm stuck or whatever. So things like those, that are just those administrative elements, the communication aspect, the response rate, things like those tell you a lot about the university, that further contributes to your confidence that this is a good university. So a place that's taking too long, which is what happened with my first choice, they literally replied like when I got here the first week. So what if I had waited all that time because I was so hell-bent on that school? I would have missed my chance to come, or I would have come late. Coming late, and many people do come late anyway, but coming late, you know, you come and start catching up and stressing and everything. So look out for, as much as possible, of course, you want to apply in good time as well to allow for that wait period, you know. And a good time would be like at best by June, latest for September, you should have applied. By June latest for September, and that's really pushing it in a sense, so that you give it maximum a month, get responses from the school, and then now get the CAS and then apply for your visa, which is another 3 to 6 week wait. So that by September you're ready to come for your course. So I believe that's that. And in the coming videos now, we start to talk about all these requirements one by one, where to get them, what to do, what to factor in, things like that. And I'm really hoping that you're benefiting from these videos. Thank you for watching. Lots of love to you. Pass this to someone who you know will need it. Please continue to engage in the comments, ask questions, give me your feedback. I'm really happy to help. I'm also happy to learn from you.